Hi, good evening. Today, I'm again I'll be discussing on a very important and very fascinating topic, that is personality, and that too personality development. We do hear this word, very often, not only in business circles, but across the various stratas, across the various professions, and in general life also. We talk about the personality. Now, as I earlier discussed in my topic, where I discussed about the various traits of the various characteristics required for a business professional. So basically, I focused on as to what are the various qualities being, which a business person should have. So that was a very elaborative discussion I had, wherein I discussed about the various traits, including the physical aspect, that is the outwardly, as to how does a professional or a business professional should look like, as to or how to carry yourself as a business person, and the other was behavioral traits or the behavioral characteristics, and then the intellectual and the psychological. Putting all these together, I've given the various components, the various traits required. Now, we must understand this, or rather let us understand, mm, that every person is unique in his or her own position. Whatever the person is, but he or she has got a certain uniqueness in herself or in himself, and therefore it comprises of, again, why a person is being unique, because there is a combination of good and the bad characteristics, as to how many good characteristics you are having, how many bad characteristics are you having. So that is why I said, it is very important for all of us to make a checklist as to, yes, I do possess these characteristics, I do not possess these characteristics, and therefore I have to learn the what I'm lacking and to improve upon as to what I'm actually having. I'm so sorry. So this again is very important, for us to understand, to make a checklist. Now, again, having said this, it is very difficult, to oneself to identify as to what I'm lacking. It is, and therefore you have to be very faithful to yourself in getting checklist, verified, correct by yourself itself, because you don't have to show it to anybody. It is for our own purpose that we make this list of these characteristics. And however, what I wish to emphasize here now is that these characteristics, we should not compare ourselves with any other else, because I said unique. Now, there are people who have got excellent at various traits. For example, communication skills. Maybe they are not that much intelligent, or they do not possess, say, adequate knowledge about a particular subject or about the work they are performing. But somehow they're very good in, say, in communicating their ideas. There are people again who cannot communicate their ideas, but they're very intelligent as far as visualizing their things, anticipating their things. This is what, imagine the things, or to look, to give a shape to an abstract thought on an idea. So there are different things. Now, all these people, they are unique because they have got their unique characteristics, apart from so many characteristics which I have discussed. Therefore, all the people, therefore, are very unique in there. The only thing is, one has to realize that there is every chance for improvement, and therefore, and that is, this is the very aspect of this discussion, is that we have to polish as to what we have, and what we do not have as the characteristics, we should try to learn, we try to inculcate in our own way, for to come into the mainstream. Now, we do have certain bad qualities. So I won't say it, it would be negative qualities. Negative is a proper word to say. So therefore, a mix of good and these negative qualities, these traits define how we respond to the situations and with people. Very important is as to why do we possess these things. Importantly come, no, I'm doing my work, but because one has to, when you are into business, you are interacting with the various kinds of people, not within the organization only, but outside the organization. And therefore it is very important for us as to how do we respond to different situations and to different people. So this is where our intelligence comes into the picture as to how to move up to the level of the person, whether it is you're talking to a big boss or you're talking to a toddler, for example. So you have to change according to the situation, and not the external people or the people you are meeting. For that matter, they will change. So the situation, maybe you are into say a business organization, so that is a separate environment altogether. You are in a family, again you are in among friends, or you are just unknown anywhere. So again, if even if you are unknown to everybody, still you are interacting with the people. They do interact with us. For example, I say, if you are standing alone in at a bus stand, it might be possible that there are certain people who select from so many people and come up to you and ask as to where the well, I'll get the bus for example, to go to Delhi. Now you might not be knowing, because you are just unknown to the person. You are also the person in the transit, and you are there in that particular say bus stop, because you are in the process of transit from one place to another, and then you have to change but this person identified yourself among so many hundreds of people who are looking, and he or she thought that I should ask. So this is why what I mean by the physical qualities of a person, because the this person who came to ask you has rejected so many hundreds of people who were rather standing there at the bus stop. So this is what I mean by when we say to initiate the discussion. This is where the initiation comes in, where you make the other person speak out, to come into unless and until the ball comes into play as to how will you play. So the other person is initiating. You should be able to make the other person to initiate it. So what I'm trying to say is we can become the best version of ourselves. The whole practice of learning these traits and to practice on these characteristics is because you have to be, you are own version of yourself. Now the only thing what I'm trying to say here is, I'm trying to emphasize upon, is that we have to become the best version of that. Now what is best, nobody knows. It is nowhere written as to what is best, but all we are striving for the best. We should try for the best version, and not for the others, for myself. And therefore, if you are willing to become the most terrific version of you, you have to possess some personality traits, so as to you stand apart from the group. Unless and if you become the member of the group, hundreds of people, nobody will notice you. What I'm trying to say is, without speaking around, because unless and until somebody is eager to talk to you, as to how will you explain that I'm so intelligent, that you have got possess, so you have so many skills, you know so many things, and you can help the person out. Why? Because the other person is not interested to talk to you. So the first and foremost thing, that is why I'm emphasizing upon that, it is not only by the looks. The people who have got good looks, have got an advantage. That is no denying to it. All over the world, the people who are good looking, charming, by the grace of God, so they have got a edge. But again, it is 95% of the people, who have to make themselves. And therefore I'm talking about these 95 people, as to open up any discussion, to make the other person talk to you, to make the other person motivate to come up to you and to discuss. So this initiates the opening of the discussion. So I'm going to give you very simple tips about as to what those traits were there. So keeping those traits which I have discussed earlier in 4 different categories, keeping those in view, I'm hopeful that if not, then you can refer to my earlier video, and if you have noted down, so far so good. So number one we should understand is that no, you should know that you are incomparable. We do, it is a basic tendency of the parents, of the seniors, of the teachers, most of the teachers, I should not say, I'm very sorry to speak out this way, but there is a tendency to compare. We compare the person. Oh, this person is so good, you should become like this. You do not have his communication skills are good, his personality is good, so and so, blah 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 blah. And so you what I suggest is you should not compare yourself with anybody. Makes yourself so unique, and try to understand it. It is here that you have to focus on. You have to you have to love yourself that way. This is what I'm trying to say in a nutshell. So and that will it gives you this does not let your strengths blossom. If you think you are comparable, you are stand still in a position, and but if you think no, I'm incomparable, whatever I have, I cannot be compared to anybody, I have to work on my own. And you see, so there are thousands of examples. If you go by the examples, that there are people who believe in themselves, and they have succeeded in their lives despite every odds. So number two is, and therefore it is very closely related, is to be kind to yourself. We are being taught to kind to others. I say we should be kind to others, but we should be kind to ourselves also. Now, meaning thereby that we should, many of us fail to be kind to ourselves. We say, okay, fine, I cannot do it. I do not possess a personality. I'm not good looking. I have not studied in blah 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 institutes, and or I do not have the opportunities to learn so many things. So self comparison comes into the picture. This is why I said in my first point was that one has to understand that you are just uncomparable, and therefore it is then you are. So that means what I'm trying to say is that recognize that you deserve care and concern like anyone else, and that is why you must be kind and understanding of oneself. Unless and until you try to understand yourself, things will not fall in line. That is for sure. So, one, you have to understand yourself that whatever you are doing, it is for your own benefit, and then it passes on the benefits to the people who are you associated with directly or indirectly. Recognize that making mistakes and failing, is a part of life. Now, this is very important to learn. We in the heart of our hearts, or in the minds also, we do not say, even in the class, sometimes happens, students, when you put up a question general to the class, nobody answers. But when you pinpoint somebody, the students, gives you the correct answer. But if you ask them in general, won't. This is, this comes also in professional life and in our lives also. We should understand that whatever activity I earlier dealt with, decision making is what, again, it might be right, it it may be wrong, it may be right. But there is if had it been somewhere written that if you take this decision, this will be right, if you take this decision, this to be done is required. Then what I'm trying to say is that one has to recognize that for whatever activity you are trying to initiate is that might fall into the category of either right or maybe wrong. So one should understand this, and then you owe the responsibility. Whether it is right, you owe the responsibility. If it's wrong, you owe the responsibility. And be aware of one's emotions and feelings. Again, this is very important. We ignore it generally, but I said earlier also, you should control your emotions and your feelings. This is very important, because even in interacting with, when we talk about interpersonal relations, this plays a this is where most of the people they makes a mistake. And one has to learn these things very clearly. So third point again, which it is logically coming up, is give space to imperfections. Whatever we do, if it cannot be perfect at all the times. And this is because all these are all human errors. When we are there, human are ought to make errors. and and therefore imperfections comes into the picture. So if we are looking out for always good answer or a correct answer, this is again, and it just an next to imagination, that you are imagining a situation or a person who does not, maybe in films it happens, but in general case it is very it's very rare that a person is taking almost all the decisions, and there he's so perfect that he's not making any wrong choices. Now this is again, I would not say wrong, but it can be a debatable aspect to discuss. So be next is be light in mind and heart. You know, do do not take pressures. The pressure comes in. It's very easy for me to say do not take pressure, but it is very difficult, to avoid it. But again, if we keep it in our subconscious mind, to keep it light, whatever, whether you are successful, whether you are unsuccessful in a particular happening or in a particular work. So this, it should be taken as a what we call it. I'm so sorry, I've got a bad throat. It is, you should keep it as a sportsman spirit. If you loses the game, nothing matters. We can take corrective measures earlier. Stay enthusiastic. Now this is, I have seen so many people, they are very good, but in the process